My name is Tseng, and I am now a kind of full-time artist. I started my art interest and career, so to say, in 2010. And the reason why I did it was because my kids were growing up and they were about to leave home, and I said, you know what, Millie, this is the time when you can actually do the things that you really love to do. And that was painting. And I have always wanted to paint, but never was able to do it because of life. It takes you down the road where you have to survive, right? That came first. And since 2010, I haven't stopped. I have been taking part in different competitions and entering different shows, and had my own studio with other artists, and eventually my own studio at the Williams Mill. And since 2019, after I stopped working, I've been just concentrating on my art. When it comes to art, I started with the intention of painting like Monet. I love his work. And when I was in France, I actually spent a whole day in his home, yes, in Givigny. And the opportunity came to paint like Monet in 2010 by Nancy Foster. She was offering this course at Beaux-Arts Brampton. I took that course and I never looked back. I started with oil painting, and I did oil in the beginning until I found out that, oil wasn't a good medium to be using in the house without proper ventilation. And Canadian winters can be cold, and winter time you don't open up the windows as often as in the summertime. So I changed from oil to acrylic. And that was just as good also, only it dried faster. And later on I found out that it wasn't the best medium to use when you were doing plein air, because the paint dried so fast. even though you try to use the medium to, retard the drying period and all. I must say, when I started, it was just my garden, flowers. So when you look at my earlier works, it's all to do with floral type of stuff, right? And my style was different too. With flowers, I don't paint like as if I'm doing a plein air. I do the negative painting with a positive twist. Basically, I paint layers and many layers to make something come up. So when you look at my earlier works, it's so different from what I'm doing now. And I love the change. I love the fact that there's an avenue where I can do what I want and learn what I want. Never having been to art school, I take this as a very, very big opportunity and a privilege to be able to try so many different mediums and styles and learn from artists that I admire, and learn something like plein air artists. I love to see how they do, and then that's where I get my inspiration and my learning experience too, because I really don't want to go back to art college or anything to do that. I'll just learn from different people who I admire. Yeah, and I take courses for sure. It's strange. When I look at something, I look at the scenery as I'm driving up this road. My husband is driving, and I'm looking at the scenery. I said, oh, look at that change in the color. It's all brown, but look at the different shade. It's something like that. When you are an artist, I think you begin to see the nuances of the colors that mix together, and what is it that makes it pop? What is it that attracts me to seeing something which is so drab, like a dry landscape, a winter, dreary and gloomy landscape, but I still find beauty in it because of what I can see that, oh, with a paintbrush and a palette knife, I can do something different that will make it actually pop out. It's just like even sketching. I could be just sketching anything, but no, automatically I am tuned into it. and I become so engaged with something that everything else disappears. I am just engrossed in that moment. It's a great therapy, I think, for people who are having problems with, too many stress and things like that. It's so grounding. So right now I'm doing that challenge, Strada Easel challenge. It's a 30-day, do some art every day and post online. So the things that I have chosen are all items that my children actually made when they were in preschool and up to grade 5, I think, okay? And I have saved all these little toys and crafts and things like that. And those are the items I am sketching every day. And you don't know how good I feel, because it takes me back over 30 years and it makes me feel like, those were the treasured moments in my life. And I think it shows, because when people say, oh, I love the expression in this little guy, look at his smile. And yes, kids, when they were growing up, they had so little other feelings than just joy. And I think that these little things, I'm trying to capture the joy of what I felt, what they did, and put it down on paper. Yeah. I had art in me since I was 7. In first grade, I took home a drawn parrot and painted it green with a red beak and all. And the teacher had written, "Very good, Millie." And I was to take this home. And later on, they told my parents that this child has a real gift for art, But then when I was growing up, art was not something that a child could just take and make a living. So I had 3 things I could choose from: to be a nurse, a teacher, or a secretary. I decided to do the last. So I landed myself as an administrator, as a secretary the rest of my life, which is pretty not so okay, but it did me well, because I was able to support myself and my family, and was able to see different parts of the world, and everything came along. Yeah, I was very fortunate to work with the airline to start with in Nepal, and then in Norway I worked with a tanker industry, and then coming to Canada I was working with another international company, Rico Canada. So I was very, very fortunate in that respect, that life took me the way where it took me, and now I think, nearing retiring age, it's just do what I wish, what I love, and that's my art. I don't normally show off my art. What I have already been doing is I do donate my art to different organizations, and I have already been doing it for a long time. Like when the tsunami happened in Japan, I donated a piece, and it raised quite a bit of money through my company, And strange enough, when the company moved to another location, this piece of art came back to me. And they were saying, because the person who had won the piece of art, he had already left the company, and he was in Edmonton. So that piece of art came back to me. And then I actually redonated this for a family, some friends who were actually helping to come in from the war-torn areas. I think this one was Afghanistan. And it went there, and it raised money there for that. So one piece of art can go a long way if it is used well. And I feel happy that I'm able to do it, not personally, but through what I have painted or what I have done. My energy has gone somewhere. And just recently I helped out, I donated a piece to Ehong in Markham area, Scarborough-Markham area, and then another piece just this past year to the Bennett village, So which I want to help them, because I know they need help, because we all get old, and we need that place or that home to be built, so that people who are palliative care and all, they need that place to stay in, because right now I believe they are all in the hospital, and this will, ease some space for regular patients if the palliative care patients can stay somewhere. And that is something that I'll be working on a regular basis, like donating. Nearly every year I'll be doing that. You can find me on Instagram, which is Millie Paints, and you can find me in Fine Art America. If you just Google on my name, Millie Tseng, you'll find most of my art there. Of course, the recent one that I haven't put in. And I'm on LinkedIn. If you just go to Millie Tseng, and I will be having a studio space shortly, because a group of us are planning to rent the church hall, parish hall in Millwall, and where we will be having our own space to paint and to put in some of our own works. And by the way, I forgot to tell you, I even published a little booklet with my art. Yeah, I wanted to take part in an art competition where you wrote the poetry, and then you would just have to submit it in. But unfortunately, I had already published them in my Instagram, so I was automatically disqualified. But I made a book out of it instead. Yeah, I just call it Reflections, my paintings, and a haiku.